let me tell you a bit about myself. We're talking about personal transformation today. And oh, great, getting back to work, that's good. Ben Von asked me to do this because I have personally transformed myself over the years. My background is that I was in care as a child and left home the day before my 16th birthday, was cut loose out into the wide world. Nice to see all the chats in there. Thank you. It gives me an idea of where to sort of pitch what I'm talking about. So I wanted to be a dancer, and I was virtually made homeless the day before my 16th birthday. I had to go, I lived in a bedsit in Toxteth in Liverpool and became a dancer in a working men's club. And I wore the most amazing costumes, or I thought they were, probably all. I actually, in my presentation, the only interesting slide is the one of me in a bikini and feathers, age 16. And my complete ambition at that time was, and it was because it was all I knew about. The world hadn't opened, or my eyes hadn't been opened to the world, and I hadn't had perspective shifts before this moment. I wanted to go and dance on the pier in Blackpool with Loretta Legg, and because I'd been to see one of the shows, and the costumes were brilliant, and the music was all of the jazz era, and the choreography was fabulous. So that was my entire ambition, was to go and be a dancer on Blackpool Pier. And then I was in my bedsit and I was drinking a bottle of cheap red wine, Lambrusco. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but it is apps. And everyone's nodding their heads, going, oh yeah, rite of passage. And so I was sitting on my bed watching A Kind of Loving, which was an adaptation from a Stan Barstow book. And it was the only time I'd heard a Northern accent on the telly, apart from Coronation Street. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to go down to London and be an actor. And it completely blew my mind. And I thought, I'm not going to go and be a dancer. A dancer only has a career for a few years and then it's done. I'm going to go and be an actor. So I was almost 17. So me and my best friend, Julie, we went off to Woolworths. I don't know if everybody remembers Woolworths, but I loved Woolworths. So sad when it closed down. Yes, Diane remembers Woolworths. Did you get the pick and mix?
Yeah. My first job is my first job when I was 15.
Was it? Excellent. I'm envious. What a brilliant first job. So we went off to Woolworths and we got duvet covers and duvets and that kind of thing. And we pitched up to Lime Street station in Liverpool. And we went off to the photo booth, which was like the selfie of the day, and got our pictures taken in the selfie booth. And then we went with our little suitcases to get on the train. And I got on the train and Julie didn't. She bottled it. So I found myself in London with a very strong Liverpudlian accent. No one could understand a word I said. Knowing nobody, and auditioned for drama school and got in, and worked really hard on losing my accent. And so that was the first moment, really, I suppose, of personal transformation. And it's still true today. The Liverpudlian accent is the #1 accent in the UK for people thinking you're stupid. And it's unbelievable, but it is true. I know, and you're all going, oh my God, can't believe we live in this kind of a world. But yes, I can't remember what the second one is. Oh, it's the Brummie accent. It's the Birmingham accent. So anyway, so I changed my accent and got a job in a pub on Clapham Common called the Windmill. Oh, I love Brookside as well. Oh my God, with the patio under the table and all of that. Sorry, the body under the patio. Yeah. And oh God, I love Sheila. Yeah, I love Brookside. So I got a job in this pub called the Windmill, and I was happily working there. to pay my way through drama school. And then this guy kept pinching my bottom. I was only 17. So I poured a pint of lager top over his head and they fired me. Anyway, I got another job. And then I went, there was an advert in the Stage after I finished drama school. The Stage is like a trade paper for actors. And there was a little ad like that. And it said, female actors wanted without a London accent, but who live in London, write to this box number. So I wrote to the box number and I got a call from the BBC. And it was to go and audition for a bi-weekly drama, they called it, a soap. And so I got the job. So I became an actor in EastEnders right at the very beginning of EastEnders. And again, that perspective shift completely changed my lens onto the world, because I was experiencing new and interesting people. But not only that, I was being exposed to writers and directors and other actors, and I was a really curious young woman. I left school without any maths or English, still don't have it. But curiosity was something that I was very, it's still part of my makeup. And so my perspectives shift. And the reason for me telling you all about perspective shift is when we have different experiences, it can help us, if we're open to it, it can help us see things in a different way, and often in a surprising way. So fast forward, I was in EastEnders for 4.5 years, went back recently actually for one episode, and it was for Dot's funeral, which was really lovely, very honoured to be part of it. Anyway, I auditioned for the West End and got jobs in the West End and went on national tours, did lots of other telly. But then I was writing for a science programme for the BBC. I wasn't working as an actor, I was resting, which is the fate of actors. You have to sort of take that as part of the job. And so I was writing, and they were launching something called a website. And didn't know what a website was, never heard of it, didn't know what the internet was. I mean, it was 23 years ago, so it's a long time ago. And I was speaking to the engineers who were making these ones and zeros communicate across the world. And I had a complete career change. I couldn't, the power of communication, the potential to tell stories in different ways was just completely overwhelming. And so I went on a tour, finished a job, and then came back to the BBC and was part of the launch team for BBC Online. And I worked in the entertainment and drama verticals. Oh, good question. Oh, sorry, I'll digress. I've just got a question. Yeah, do keep the questions coming. Do you feel you lost some of your identity by changing your accent, is the question. No, not really, because I reinvented myself. I created a new Linda. So I wanted, when I came down to London, I wanted to not be the Linda that was brought up in care. And actually, I didn't even speak about it until I was in my early 40s, because I associated it with shame. And then it wasn't until I started mentoring other care leavers, care experienced people, that they gave me the language to speak about my experiences. So it was actually, they really mentored me, because they gave me language to speak about that part of my life. So, and I'm much more forthcoming about that part of my life now. And in fact, I've just joined John Lewis board to help shape their care experience program that they're doing. But I didn't feel that, no, because I created a new one. I created a new version of me. You remember Mary, thank you. She's quite a memorable character if you're a certain age, isn't she?
I remember her as well. Yes.
um,
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because I think it's quite interesting that you're screaming at me already that you're one resilient lady, and resilience and tenacity are strong attributes that help us move forward in life. What's the value of being able to look at your one situation through a different perspective, a different lens?
It's a really good question.
Rather than, because I think a lot of women, and I can be guilty at times, we can play the victimhood and go, oh, poor me, oh, poor me. And then if you flip it and look at it in a different perspective, that flip can make you feel very empowered and, right, I'm going to go out there and make it happen. And it's all because you've looked at it through a different lens.
So, yeah, you're right. So I've just been speaking about this with another group of women, actually. I think it's about flipping the narrative and the language that we use, and particularly the language that we use about ourselves. I'm really good at maths, but I'm trying to do X. I think if we, I am very guilty of this. If somebody asks me, you know, what have I achieved? I'll say, well, we did this and we did that, and talk about my team as a collective. And not, rather than, well, I can take some of that credit because I led that team. And so it wasn't Dawn, and it wasn't Juliet, for, you know, just throwing names out, that delivered it. It was me with them. And so I think when you're looking at things through a different lens, it opens up another little doorway to something. And one of the other things that I also like to do is when I'm presented with a situation, to try and flip that narrative for myself, I write down a list of the things that I can do. And I don't have to be really good about them, rather than what I can't do and why I can't do that, or why there's a big but there. I don't have to be fabulous at it. I can just be okay. And so I'll write that list, and that sometimes shifts my perspective. It shifts the lens for me. It will say, oh, I mean, quite, you know, it can also say, oh, you're totally not suited to X, you're not suited to this role. But quite often it will help me understand some of the things that I have that I can take to a situation or role or a speech like this.
Do you find then it then anchors you, it reminds you of what your superpowers are and what energizes you and motivates you to move forward, you know, with each day or each job or each career move, because you're anchored in what you're strong at?
I do feel like it anchors me. I think it empowers me. I think it makes me feel, I mean, one of the things that I talk about often is imposter syndrome. I think we should ban that as a phrase, actually. And I was definitely feeling it last night, knowing that I was coming to talk to all of you. But yes, it does anchor me. Imposter syndrome. I have to keep telling myself that the imposter is that. It's not that I'm rubbish. The imposter is the imposter syndrome in my mind. So I do anchor onto that. And actually, I do. I mentor a lot of apprentices and care experience apprentices, and I do these monthly talks at Channel 4 and Group M with these young people. And quite often their line managers come in and join the talks. And I did an experiment at one of them and said, can everybody put their hands virtually and in the theatre at Channel 4 if they've suffered from imposter syndrome? And every single person in the room put their hands up, including 2 middle-aged men. And I just thought, that is fascinating. We should stop it. I mean, it's easier said than done, but one of those ways that I try to is write down all of the things that I can do, and all of the things that, even if I'm just okay at it, I do not need to be brilliant or fabulous.
Yeah. Well, we have something like 80,000 negative thoughts a day as a human beings, and only, or 80,000 thoughts, 60,000 are negative and 20,000 are positive. So it's a human trait, regardless of men and women, that we all suffer from. But as soon as you anchor yourself back into what you are good at, it releases all those lovely pheromones, and you self-propel.
Yeah.
And you move forward.
Yeah, I think that's really a really lovely way to see it. I think, in short, I would say flip your narrative and try and catch yourself with the language that you use, because people will use it back at you. And stand your ground, and center in that language and that view of yourself of being good enough.
Yeah.
So where were we?
We were about Mary. We've had the bikini and the dancing in the bikini and the and then you were Mary.
Yes. So then I went. I think I mentioned I went to write for Tomorrow's World, which is a science program, and I then became part of the launch team for BBC Online. And this is one of those moments when I had to really anchor myself, because I was working with engineers, and the good thing is that nobody knew about the internet. Nobody knew really what it was. And what I could do is bring creative application of what the internet might be for the BBC to engineers. So the engineers would tell me what they were working on, and then I'd say, oh, well, we could do this with it, and I could creatively help them. So that was a classic example of me doing that, rather than just feeling massively insecure every day I went into work, working with these brain boxes. And we did some incredible things. We did live webcams. This is like 23 years ago, and no one was doing it. And we were literally broadcasting with gaffer tape and locked off cameras, and had Tom Baker from Doctor Who come in and do it. But so it was really quite pioneering. Anyway, then I went off to Channel 4, got made redundant from Channel 4, went to Discovery, left Discovery. That's where I met Ben Von, who is COO of this organization, 2 to 3 days. And that's how we became friends. We used to sit and natter for hours on the sofa in the canteen. And then my son, I had a global role. Oh, and that again shifts perspectives, is being globally literate and being curious, because you'll learn, everything that I watched on telly changed, the books that I read changed, the films that I saw, I'd never seen a subtitled film before. But when I went to Discover, everything shifted for me in that way, because I was curious about other people and their culture and what they were bringing, and how I needed to speak to them, and how they needed to speak to me. So anyway, my son, who was 6 at the time, said he didn't want me to go traveling anymore. And I had a really awful boss who I really didn't like. We culturally did not hit it off. She was ex-military and I am not. So I left and went freelance for 6 years. And so I went back to the BBC, and I went back to Channel 4, did loads of other stuff. But that, again, that was a time where I had to really be clear about what it was I could do, and what it was that what I could offer to companies to bring value, and be really clear about that, but also be clear about what my values are as a person. Because there are some organizations that I wouldn't work for, I think that's really important, because what it does is it sorts the chaff from the weed in a way, because you say, Juliet, I can see you're bursting to ask a question.
I am. It's very easy to say I worked out what my values were, and I would imagine lots of the women here are going, what are my values? How do I work out my values? How did you do that work, Linda, so that you were congruent with what your values were? Did you just
Great
talk to
question.
yourself, or what did you do to work out what you believed in, what you stood for? So that, again, that's another lens to attract what you want into the world. If you know
it really is. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So what I did was, I'm very visual, so everybody will have their own way of doing this, and I have to freestyle it. It sort of pours out of me, and then I make sense of it. So I get great big, I don't know what that size paper is, it A3,
Big.
something like that. Yeah, big paper, and some coloured felt tips, and I sort of pour it onto it and then start to order it. So it's a bit like making a mind map, except it's not in software. And I find doing something like that in software really hinders my thought process. I can't do it, because then I start editing as I'm going through it, because I'm putting it digitally. Other people are completely different. I have a work colleague who can't put it out onto paper. He has to absolutely do it in some mind mapping Miro software. He can't do it any other way. But for me, that makes me edit. So everyone will find their own way. But I think it's, when you distill it down, for me, it's things like, do I want to work in an organization that is only men? No. Do I want to work with people who aren't kind? No. Do I want to work in a progressive environment? Yes. Do I want to be in service of a team or of the answer's yes. So when I say I mentor, and in my job, I am of service, not just to the organization and their bottom line, but to the people that I work with. That's something that is very personal to me. Will I work with a payday loan company, for example? No. So it's all getting it all out and thinking about what your personal ethics are, because as you said, Juliet, what it does is all the noise that you get, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, there's this job over there, I'm going to go and chase that. It actually declutters and really streamlines opportunity. But also what it does is I don't want to sound too woo-woo, but it actually does put the right things out into the world for you, and things do come back that you are attracting.
Yeah, it completely does. And if I can, I've just got off a coaching session. Once a month I coach some women in our community, and a lot of the women that come to me is that their minds are like balls and ping pong machines. They're batting all over the place. And I do always say to them, what is it you really, really, really want to do? And I ask them the 3 reallys, because it slows their brain down on purpose. And then it's about, forget all the noise. I think we all get sucked into all the noise out there, and you've just got to center your energy and go, what is it that really energizes me? And keep asking. What you just said then was a series of open questions, and you just keep asking yourself those open questions, and you do get the answers, because it'll either feel right, you'll either get a specific answer, or you'll go, no, I don't like what I'm feeling or hearing back in my head. And it just prompts you to ask another open question, and as you say, you find your way to write it down.
Yeah. So who's Claire, you're a personal trainer, is that right? Is she still on?
She's working part-time, and she's not
part-time.
finished.
Sorry, I'm working part-time. Yes, not just a personal trainer. I possibly need a personal.
Suddenly got interested then. So right,
So is that yes? Do you want to come back on to where you were, or do you want to take questions, or is there
Yeah,
more
let's
to
take
add?
questions. No, not really. I mean, I think maybe just to scoot to the top tips for personal transformation that I'm meant to be dispensing.
Yes.
We've talked about the ripping up the mental can'ts, and write down what you actually can do, and what you like doing actually should add to that. Because if you like doing it, opportunity will follow. We've spoken about being curious. And my mum always used to say to me, curiosity killed the cat. But curiosity did not kill any cats. Curiosity is one of the biggest gifts that you can give to yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things that I ask my mentees to do is to connect with a person once a month, to ask them about their careers and ask them about their personal journey. People are usually very flattered that you've sought them out, and they don't often say no, or in my experience, they don't often say no. If they've not got time, they'll tell you you've not got time, and you can go and find somebody else, but don't be afraid to do that, whether it's a connection on LinkedIn or sending an email to somebody to say, can I buy you a cup of tea? I'm really curious about your journey. And I guarantee you, no one will have a linear career journey, no one. And everyone will have had adversity, or they will have had to see things through a different lens. They would have to rummage deep down to find out what their potential is and how they're going to ignite it and use it. One of the other things that I quite like is creating your own personal board. So you create your board of directors, and you ask of them, you get people around you with certain skill types. So I'm on a board for a theatre company. They've got me there because I'm technical and they're not. And so they've surrounded themselves with people that can fundraise, people that are good at marketing, people that can do technical transformation. And so they've got a board, and they've got a sensory theatre expert as well. So they've created their board with the expertise that they need. There's no reason why we can't create our own personal boards and convene once a quarter, have a bottle of wine or cup of tea, and hold yourself accountable and hold them accountable to what you need from them to help you in your journey. If you could have seen my deck, you would have noticed that it's in black and white. And the reason that it is in black and white is because yesterday I was made redundant. And so I've not got a shiny deck to hide behind, and it's all beautifully designed by somebody in the design team at work. And so what I'll be thinking about is what my personal brand is and how do I articulate that on paper or in a deck or in a presentation. Yes, Juliet?
Would you like me to show your deck? I have it here.
No, it's fine. It's okay. Fine. I'm done. Oh, actually, if you could share the last slide, the very slide 9, that would be great. Shortly. Where was I? Yeah, creating your own personal brand. So we've talked about values and your personal values. How do you represent that? How do you dress your brand? How do you speak your brand? If you've got to do a presentation, what colors are your brand and how do they represent you? If you go into a supermarket, you'll see colors like blue and red and green are very often used in supermarkets, and they're to provoke a response. It was very fashionable. Color therapy in clothes a decade ago was very fashionable. You wear clothes to provoke certain emotions and to make people feel comfortable or warmth. What are the colors that express you? and how do you express yourself as your own personal brand. So that's also something to think about. And then Juliet's just showed this slide, and I was reading a book the other day, and there was this quote in it: "There isn't a person I know who hasn't had to work hard at their confidence." And I just thought that really resonated with me. And make sure that you are connecting with people on LinkedIn, or whether it is just going for a coffee, as I say, keep changing those perspectives. The more people you meet who aren't the same as you, the more your perspectives will shift, and the more you will open up opportunity for yourself. And as I said in this slide, you can start with me. That's my email address, that's my LinkedIn name, and that's my phone number. So do make a note of that, and I'm sure Ben, Von and Juliet can share that with you as well. So yeah, questions. Oh my God, it's yes, we need to take questions.
Well, we've had a comment about the word curious, and I think it's a very powerful word because it's also very flattering. So if you want to seek information, saying to somebody, Linda, I'm really curious to know about such and such, it's very hard for the other person to turn around and not give you a very fulsome response. It's a very powerful word, curious.
Yes, it really is. It's a really good bit of advice.
Yeah.
I shall use it myself.
So ladies, are there any questions that you'd like me to ask, or come off mute and ask Linda yourself? Benvin, is there a question you want to ask Linda? She's now, you could pretend you're on the sofa, but you're actually not having a private chat. Is there something that you would like to ask Linda that you're putting her on the hot spot now and she could answer your question?
Okay. What would I like to ask Linda? Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank her for her honesty. I've had the pleasure, as she said, of knowing Linda for a long time now. We've got older together.
Ain't that the truth?
Ain't that the truth? It really is.
Yeah.
And I am in awe of her transformation, which is why I wanted her to speak with you today, because I think it doesn't stop. So correct me, Linda, if I'm wrong. But do you see this as a lifelong skill to see you into your 100th year, or and has it?
I don't want to live to 100.
Okay, we'll give you to 80. And yeah, is it a lifelong skill once you've honed it that you just keep reapplying to every new situation you find yourself in? And yeah, that's what I'd like to know.
Benvin, you better go on mute. There's background noise where you are.
I wouldn't say that I've honed it. I would say it's adaptability and resilience. I think one of the most amazing gifts that being a care experience person can give you is being resilient. And I think women generally are resilient. So I think it's adaptability. Oh, Diane, that's interesting. I think that's really adaptability and curiosity to see things and not be closed down, not to be saying, oh, well, I can't, and to be open to the world and all of its wonder is something that I try to be and to do. To go to your question about to write a TV drama, if you write a treatment, and a treatment is like a précis of the story. So it's like 2 or 3 pages of what the story is, who the characters are. If you search that on the internet, you'll find loads. If you go to a guy, I can't remember his website, but he's called John York, and it's York with an E in the end. And he does, he's got loads of resources on his website about writing and getting into the writing career. He used to be an exec producer on EastEnders, and he's exec produced loads of other stuff. But he's a real passionate advocate for writers and telling stories. So if you go and seek that out, and then if you go on to, if you search Channel 4 commissioning, for example, or BBC commissioning on Google, or Sky commissioning, you'll see how they commission stuff. So Channel 5, all of them, all of the broadcasters, Apple TV, you'll if you just search on their corporate website for commissioning, then you'll see how they do it particularly. I think the BBC is just bbc.co.uk/commissioning from memory. But if you Google search it, then you'll get lots of information. But go to writers' workshops as well, because there you'll start. And one of the other things that a friend of mine did is she wrote a page a day. And, at the end of the year, you've got 365 pages. And so just start, and you'll start to hone your craft. You'll start to see what's good and what isn't. We've got a minute left. I'm aware of time. Is there any final questions or any closing thoughts from?
How do you hone resilience without having to just go through life's knocks?
I think that's how you do it, isn't it?
I was going to say, is that the only way? Or is it when you get a knock that you have to look at it through a different perspective?
Well, that's how I do it. I'm not sure. Like, I'm excited about not working for a bit because there's hiring freezes on all over the place. So I'm not going to get a job this side of the summer, I don't think. And if I do, it'll be a miracle. So in my field, in my particular field, I mean, in data and tech. So I'm kind of looking forward to the summer and not worrying about it. So yes, I guess it's the whole thing of my talk has been about looking at things through different lenses. And I guess that it's rather than seeing it, oh my God, I've been made redundant. It's seeing it through a different lens. Yeah.
A different perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what you just shared there is the gift that something has given you. So you've just been made redundant and you've been given the gift of some time and you're looking forward to it.
I am, yeah.
So does anybody else have a question they'd like to ask this amazing and inspiring lady who's reinvented herself more than once, from Mary, who was a drug addict on EastEnders?
Yeah, I was acting.
I feel like I have a comment rather than a question, but it might lead to a question. I feel like resilience is something that certainly I feel like we as a culture and certainly our kids need to develop more in this area. And my feeling is that, and I love what you say, it's about when something happens, when adversity happens, it's about teaching our kids and us as well to really, you've got two options of how you deal with it. You can fall apart, or you can really use it to create something new and better than it was before. It's teaching the brain really to be malleable and adaptable, that you can shift your thinking from this is an adverse situation to this is something that could be positive and something great could come out of it. So for me, it's about, certainly as a mother, I try to teach my children, to slightly flip their thinking, or to always, be open to seeing something completely different. And that's training your brain. That's training your thought processes.
Yeah, it is. It's actually creating those neural pathways, isn't it? That's a really good observation, Luciana. Thank you for sharing that. Do we need a closing thought from Benvon or Juliet? Or do you want one from me?
I think we should have one from you.
Well, firstly, thank you for joining the session. It's been lovely, and thank you for your questions. I really appreciate them, and some of your observations too. I wish all of you brilliance and fabulousness, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's continue the conversation offline. Take
Well,
care.
Linda,
Thank you.
thank you very much. It's been a really inspiring conversation, and I think it's all about flipping. It's all about flipping. I think we just need to flip.
Flipping the
girls.
narrative.
It's flipping the narrative, flipping the perspective, and flipping the brain, so that we go out there and we follow our energy, and we do what that empowers us and feels good, makes us feel good about ourselves. So keep flipping, girls. Keep flipping.
Thanks, everyone. Take care of yourselves. See you on
Bye-bye.
LinkedIn.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.